Liam accidentally walked through an apocalyptic disaster, with extreme heat, rainstorm and extreme cold. This one disaster after another caught Liam off guard. Fortunately, he awakened the system all, food, buy, daily necessities, buy, weapons and equipment, buy, the end of life, really fragrant. Chapter 1. Crossing Parallel Worlds. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Hot, so hot, why is it so hot? A young man lying in bed was constantly cursing, but when he looked over, he could only see his mouth moving but couldn't hear any sound. The boy who was awakened by the heat opened his eyes and the first sensation was heat, thirst, and even a few clicks of his mouth, so I sat up and rubbed my head, my memory still stuck in yesterday when I was drinking. I had to fight to sign the contract, and then I couldn't remember anything. It should be fragmented. If I couldn't remember it, I decided not to think about it. First, I looked around and found that this place didn't seem like my own home, but rather a dormitory. The bed under me was the upper and lower bunks commonly seen in college, with a bed above and a cabinet below. Hiss, so thirsty. The young man pinched his own throat with his hand, feeling that his throat was about to smoke and he was extremely thirsty, so the boy didn't care about anything else and got out of bed. He quickly got up and searched for water in the dormitory, but after searching for a long time, he couldn't even find a drop of water. When he went to the bathroom, there was no water. He was about to go out and search, but before he could reach the door was suddenly pushed open with force, and a figure rushed in. The first thing that the figure that rushed in did was lock the door. After locking the door, I turned around and saw Liam standing not far away. I was pleasantly surprised and said, "Great, Liam, you're still alive." "Water, water, water, yes, I have water here." Liam took the water and finished drinking tons of it. Although there was only half a bottle of water in the bottle, it quenched its thirst. Liam, who had finished drinking water, carefully looked at the classmates who had given him water, and no matter how he looked at them, he felt like he didn't know him. The classmate who was drinking water for him swallowed a mouthful of water while watching Liam drink, and quickly said, "You save some water. This is the amount for a day." Upon hearing this, Liam rolled his eyes and thought to himself, half a bottle of water, a day's worth of water. "I'm afraid it's not because of your mental illness, right? I'm almost thirsty, isn't it just half a bottle of water? It's not my brother. What kind of look in your eyes? Why don't we just buy a new bottle?" After drinking the water, Liam could only speak in frustration. I'm sorry, I'm just too thirsty. I'll go out and buy you a new bottle later." However, the classmate across from me looked at the expression of the fool and looked at Liam. Liam couldn't help but say, "No, brother. Look at the expression of the two fools and see what's going on with me. Is there something wrong with what I said? One bottle is too small. Then I'll buy a box." "Liam, are you crazy? Don't you know what's going on outside now? How can we get out? We've been trapped for a week now. What's going on?" Liam looked at the classmate across from him in a daze. "What does it mean to be tired for a week? I was still drinking yesterday. Didn't I wake up from the alcohol? It was still in my dream." So he closed his eyes and slapped himself. Hiss, pain, pain, I shouted as I opened my eyes and looked around, realizing that I was still in place. The brother across from me looked more like a fool at Liam, and in Liam's heart, he felt even more frustrated. "Hey, brother, what's going on? What's the situation outside? And you said you were trapped for a week, so what's the situation?" The brother across from him pondered for a moment and looked at Liam, saying, "Liam, have you lost your memory? Amnesia? Yes, you've been unconscious for over a day now. Did your brain get burned out by the heat?" "Your brain was only damaged by the heat," Liam retorted silently upon hearing it. Anyone who cursed their brain for being damaged would instinctively retort, "No, I didn't mean that. I mean, did your brain lose its memory due to dehydration and coma? I thought you were going to die. After all, we've been running out of water for almost 3 days. Liemo didn't refute after hearing it, but instead recalled it carefully. He said that there was almost no water to drink for 3 days, but his last memory was yesterday when he was negotiating a contract with someone else. He said he was still drunk and didn't wake up, but the slap he slapped himself was really painful. It was his best effort, and now it still hurts to touch it. If you say it's a dream, it's too real. The feeling his body gives him is actually reality. So he thought for a while and followed the thought of the opposite brother to understand what happened. He then asked the opposite student, "So, what's your name, classmate? Can you please tell me in detail about this almost a week-long incident? I may have really lost my memory, right?" "Hey," the classmate across from him sighed first, then took off his backpack and opened the last bottle of water left in his bag. After taking a small sip, he slowly said, "My name is Zhang Xiaofeng. Today is May 5th, and on April 28th, everyone is looking forward to going there to play during the May Day holiday. When disaster strikes, my body still shakes from time to time, probably scared." Liemo remained silent and listened silently, understanding what had happened in almost a week, and why he appeared here. To be precise, he doubted whether he had traveled through time, because he realized that his body was very young and not the way he used to be in his early 30s, so he went to the bathroom and looked in the mirror. It was obvious that he was not the same person as in his past life, too young and immature. After looking in the mirror, he was certain that he had truly traveled through time. The original owner of this body must have died. Yesterday, he drank too much and drank himself up, and then his soul penetrated here and into this body. The original owner also had the same name and surname, but no memory of the original owner. After all, it was not a fusion of souls, but a one-sided soul penetration. Thinking about this, Liemo was relieved. He had read many novels and heard many stories of soul penetration, but what he didn't expect was that this kind of thing would actually happen to him. He sighed, "Since it happened, let it go." Then I continued to listen to Zhang Xiaofeng recount the situation on the day of the disaster, which also made me feel scared. After all, he had never had such an experience before, as if the end was coming. The cause of the incident was as follows. On April 28th, there was a sudden loud noise in the sky, and then countless yellow glowing objects fell from the sky. When these objects fall to the ground, people are curious to find them motionless, but there are still some people who are afraid. After all, no one has seen this thing. For safety reasons, the school leaders issued a notice on the radio, urging students not to approach these things. But there are always some bold people who can't resist. Some people just want to touch these objects. At first, it seemed like there wasn't much danger because these people couldn't touch these things at all. At that time, Zhang Xiaofeng saw a classmate running directly into this transparent object. Result. Chapter 2. Memories. You are listening at novelfull.audio. If the result is not unexpected, there will be an accident. Those brave classmates, after running into the bodies of these monsters, initially had nothing to do and were still bouncing and jumping inside, as if telling everyone that there was nothing at all, but most students are constantly retreating, wanting to stay as far away as possible from these monsters, and their subconscious was also right. Within less than a minute of those people bouncing around in the monster's body, a scene of panic appeared. Those people were directly turned into ashes by unknown forces. After this scene appeared, the students exploded and quickly fled in all directions. Several people turned into ashes while running around, scaring them into running into the nearby building. The teaching building, experimental building, library, and dormitory building have all become shelters for students. After the initial turmoil, the outside gradually became calm. What surprised everyone was that these monsters did not actively launch attacks, as if they had never appeared before. But the scene before us woke people up again, and they did indeed exist. The school leaders are seeking help from outside, but what happens inside their school is also happening outside, not just here, but the students didn't know, and when Liemo learned about this, he also asked why he didn't escape. Zhang Xiaofeng just shook his head and sighed, saying that he had tried, but all had failed. As long as someone is about 2 meters away from these monsters, they will be burned to ashes. They haven't even considered it, because those who are close are all dead, and this glowing object is still emitting heat from time to time. The temperature outside has been increasing, and now the indoor temperature is over 30 degrees Celsius, and the outside temperature is at least over 40 degrees Celsius. There are also some things that make students panic, that is, as the temperature rises, some cars on campus, one after another, naturally explode. However, this situation has lasted for a day, and the fire is controlled by that group of monsters. As for how to control it, he himself has no idea. From that day on, there was no more intact car. Also, on the day of the disaster, there was originally electricity and water in the morning, but in the afternoon, there was a power outage and water outage. Some smarter classmates started hoarding water as soon as they returned to the dormitory, and it is said that all the buckets in the dormitory were full, but after all, this is a minority. When it was discovered that there was a power outage, many students regretted not hoarding some water. However, some students complained that they had no choice but to spend money on water now. At that time, who had no time to spend money on hoarding water was buying it as it was, without considering the situation where water was not needed. Besides, Zhang Xiaofeng's dormitory is on the 6th floor and he rarely goes out. In addition, things happen in the morning, and Li Mo in the dormitory has been sleeping and doesn't know what's happening outside. Zhang Xiaofeng, on the other hand, was scared back to the dormitory building with his classmates after seeing the whole process, but he did not initially run back to his own dormitory. The first reason is that the dormitory is on the 6th floor, and he himself said he doesn't want to lie on the 6th floor. The second reason is that it's safer to have many people together, but Li Mo knew that these people must have been so scared that they couldn't climb up, and he didn't prick them. He continued to listen. Zhang Xiaofeng also heard from others that this thing seemed to be immune to all attacks. I remember that among the students who fled back to a dormitory together, there was one with a military background. At that time, the student called their home to seek help, and their family members also said they would go back for help, but not long after, in less than 10 minutes, he seemed to receive a reply, which was somewhat complicated. He was asked to stay in place and not run around, waiting for news. When the classmate heard that there was no rescue, he became anxious and asked his family why they didn't rescue him. Then, his family explained the situation in detail to him, calmed his emotions, and hung up the phone, and this student also shared the news he received from home with his classmates and asked them to stock up on food and water. Upon hearing this, Li Mo knew that after all, it was the first day of the disaster and it happened at school. The classmates instinctively formed a group, which was safer, and there was no selfish situation. It cannot be said that there is no selfishness. Li Mo estimates that this selfish situation may happen later. At this point, Zhang Xiaofeng looked at Li Mo with some guilt because he had forgotten to tell him to stock up on some water in the dormitory, which led to Li Mo not having enough water to drink and experiencing dehydration, resulting in a coma and eventually death. These Li Mo can be seen from Zhang Xiaofeng's expression and the fact that the original owner died due to lack of water. Li Mo had no intention of blaming, gesturing for Zhang Xiaofeng to continue speaking, and Zhang Xiaofeng didn't get too caught up in this matter, continuing to talk about why there was a power outage and water outage. The reason is as follows. Just 3 hours after the monster descended, the electricity in the dormitory building suddenly cut off, and even all electronic products went black. Some people pressed their phones frantically without any response, not knowing what was going on. There was also a considerable commotion at that time. Zhang Xiaofeng heard that there were classmates with fast thinking at that time who started hoarding water because water would quickly stop after a power outage. They took advantage of this gap to hoard a little water, but not much. Some students spent their first day in panic and had no idea what had happened or when they would receive rescue. And Li Mo can imagine that if the power outage was also caused by those monsters, there should be no more electricity, which would be a headache. When there is no electricity, all forces, including military power, will be weakened in all environments, let alone daily life. Zhang Xiaofeng felt a bit guilty because he didn't let Li Mo store water in the dormitory at that time, and Li Mo's original owner didn't know what was happening outside. It was already the third day when Zhang Xiaofeng remembered Li Mo. And these 3 days. The way students convey messages is basically through shouting, but within 2 days, no one shouted because the weather was too hot and it couldn't roar anymore. Moreover, the situation had been relatively stable for the first 2 days, but by the 3rd day, some students felt that rescue was not coming and had to find a way to save themselves. The first solution that comes to mind is, of course, food and water, because some students were given very little food and water, while others were given more. This led to dissatisfaction among many students. Most students who are assigned more have a relatively good family background, while those who are assigned less are mostly students with little background. However, this group of students is certainly the majority, which led to a competition. Some people were accidentally killed in this competition, and the classmates who were killed were of course those from the family who had no background. After all, there were more lackeys around those with backgrounds, and this dead person has even less food and water to eat. And there are even those who don't eat. Zhang Xiaofeng also ran back to the dormitory at that time. After returning to the dormitory, I saw the original owner Li Mo lying in bed muttering to himself. After listening for a while, I finally understood that I needed to drink water. Zhang Xiaofeng didn't have much water on his body at the time, so he gave the original owner a drink, but the original owner still didn't get through. When Zhang Xiaofeng himself had no water, he could only go to other dormitories to borrow water from his classmates to drink, and where other classmates are willing to lend him, he can only let him take a small sip on his own at most. Zhang Xiaofeng survived by borrowing from the east and borrowing from the west, while the original owner of the dormitory, Li Mok, did not have as good luck as him and just hung up like this. Chapter 3. Beginner Gift Pack Opening. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Understanding that Li Mo's emotions here are also very complex, as he travels through time and looks at the situation, the world is bound to erupt into an apocalypse. However, he has not traveled until the beginning of the apocalypse, nor has he had the space like in the novel to unlimited hoarding of goods, and living in the apocalypse is enjoyable. Thinking of this, Li Mo sat at his desk and looked at the sky outside the window, sighing helplessly. Hey! Ding! Detected souls from another world. The system mall can bind hosts. Binding in progress 10%, 20%. 100% binding successful. Did you hear anything? What noise? Is it outside? It's probably someone grabbing someone's food. I'm weak and hungry. I'll go sleep for a while. After speaking, he ignored Li Mo and went to bed on his own. Sleeping without food is the only way to save energy, and now he can only wait for rescue from Z government. Li Mo saw Zhang Xiaofeng sleeping in bed and didn't hear the sound that had just appeared. He thought to himself, is it a standard feature of the walk-through system? Just as he thought about it, a mechanical sound with no emotional color came from Li Mo's mind. I am here. After hearing this sound, Li Mo first glanced at the bed where Zhang Xiaofeng was sleeping, as if he was really asleep, and then he lay down on his own bed. After lying down, Li Mo's heart connected to the system again. System, what functions do you have? Ding! With just a ding sound, a light screen appeared in front of Li Mo's eyes, like a projector emitting a light screen. At first, Li Mo was also startled, afraid that others would see it, but when he thought about the current environment, it was only him and Zhang Xiaofeng in the dormitory. Then he asked the system if others could see this light screen, and the system's answer was still cold and no. After receiving the answer, Li Mo specifically asked Zhang Xiaofeng to point to the ceiling and say there was something to prove the answer. However, Zhang Xiaofeng thought that Li Mo was playing with him, so he replied, after being sick, he closed his eyes and rested, and when Li Mo heard it, he wasn't angry either, proving that he couldn't see it. On the contrary, Li Mo was still very happy, thinking it was really cheap. Li Mo began to focus on browsing the light screen, which was about 40 inches long and looked quite comfortable, and the upper left corner above is the host avatar. Click on it to have a host information. The information is as follows. Host. Li Mo Mall Level. LV1 Host State. Hunger Physical Condition. Weak Host Constitution. 3. Upper limit for normal individuals is 8, Host Strength. 3. The upper limit for normal individuals is 8, Host Endurance. 3. Upper limit for normal individuals is 8, host speed. 3. Upper limit for normal individuals is 8, host intelligence. 6. Average for normal individuals is 5, other. No other currently available. After reading it, Liemo silently closed the character information panel, so let's take a look at the others. So Liemo looked at the information on the other side panel, where there was a package and a shopping mall prominently above the information. Liemo first opened the package and saw that there was actually a gift package inside. Without hesitation, Liemo clicked on it and saw that there were 4 big characters written on it. A beginner gift package. After seeing these 4 words, Liemo was overjoyed and quickly clicked to open it. Beginner gift pack activation. Congratulations to the host for activating the shopping mall function LV1. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the disaster calendar card. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the package backpack LV1. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the hand of God. It's gone. After waiting for a while without any system prompts, Liemo looked at the information on the panel and confirmed that it was all this information. Liemo first rubbed his hands and clicked to open the mall. He found that the mall page had 4 sections, namely food, daily life, weapons and equipment, and pharmaceuticals. Seeing the food, Liemo quickly opened the food section, as his body had not eaten anything for a long time. After clicking on it, I saw a lot of food on the panel. First of all, pure water and bread. Liemo quickly ordered water and bread, only to find that he needed 2 survival points to purchase. While his own survival point was 0, this makes Liemo very frustrated. Survival point, where can we get this? How to obtain survival points in the system? The host needs to activate the disaster calendar card to obtain survival points after activating survival check.in. After hearing the system explanation, Liemo quickly opened his package and found a calendar-like icon. Liemo quickly clicked to use it. Ding disaster calendar card used successfully. Calendar function enabled. Check-in function enabled. Ding today's check. In task 1. Survive for 1 hour, gain 100 survival points, countdown 59.50, 2. Submitting 100 grams of gold can earn 100 survival points. Note: after the gold is placed in the package backpack, the host needs to actively click to submit the task to complete it, and it can only be submitted once. Winky face. 3. Eliminate a flame star and gain 1000 survival points. After seeing the check.in task, Liemo realized that there shouldn't be any problem with surviving for an hour. He could lie down for an hour and have food to eat. The probability of this dormitory building having gold is unlikely given the current situation. There are so many survival points for the 3rd reward guy. Looking at the content again, if you haven't seen it before, eliminate a flame star, flame star, flame star. I guess what I'm talking about is the thing outside. This world has not been able to kill a single one of this thing until now. Let yourself come, as long as you don't die, it's good. Let's just sign in and clock in honestly. Liemo took advantage of the check.in time to open the package and looked at the other 2 items. One is a backpack, and the other is the hand of God. Liemo first clicked on the package backpack, with annotations at the end. Liemo looked at it and the annotation reads: to reduce the product of slight errors in retrieving items from packages, when the package backpack is next to the host, the items retrieved from the package must appear in the package backpack, except for the hand of God. Once used and bound to the host, the package backpack will never wear out, will not be invaded by water or fire, and will automatically return to the system backpack after leaving the host's radius of 2 meters. After upgrading, more functions can be activated. After Liemo finished reading the content, how did he feel that it was different from other systems? Their space was always available for use, so Liemo clicked yes, and the result was that after using it, the backpack inexplicably returned to the package. Liemo thought he appeared directly next to him, but he probably went out of range and came back on his own. In this way, Liemo clicked 5 times and then his backpack hit Zhang Xiaofeng. What's that? Zhang Xiaofeng picked up his backpack and looked at it, then turned to Liemo and said, Liemo, why are you smashing my backpack at me? Li Machine thought to me and said, Can you believe it? I'm thirsty, please give me some water to drink. Liemo changed the topic on the grounds of thirst. As a result, when Zhang Xiaofeng heard that he wanted to drink water, he realized that there was really not much water left. He didn't know when he would have to wait for the next round of supplies grabbing, and maybe he wouldn't be able to grab it himself. This bottle of water was considered life-saving, so he had to save his drink. He decisively refused Li Mo's request and threw his backpack back to him. After receiving the backpack, Li Mo didn't say anything and thought to himself, if there's no, then there's nothing. I'll have water in a while. After receiving the backpack, Li Mo checked and found that the size of the backpack was indeed similar to that of a backpack, which could be slightly larger. After placing it near the wall of the bed, Li Mo looked at the last item in the package and clicked on it. Hand of God. Note, once used and bound to the host's preferred hand, the power attribute of the Hand of God increases by 1.5 times. For example, if a fist attacks 150 kilograms, the host has the Hand of God, which can attack up to 225 kilograms, and can store or retrieve weapons and equipment purchased from the mall in the package at any time. Real weapons and equipment are not within the storage and retrieval range. However, after careful consideration, Li Mo realized that space transmission definitely involves the field of space. From a scientific perspective, there is indeed a possibility of errors in this unknown field, and the occurrence of fixed point transmission can be understood. Chapter 4. Opening of System Mall. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. So Li Mo carefully read the annotations, which probably enhance the power and ability to retrieve weapons and equipment at any time. Speaking of which, Li Mo didn't pay attention to the weapons and equipment in the mall yet. He first clicked to use the Hand of God. After use, miraculously, some light dots flooded into Li Mo's right arm out of thin air. When the light dot blends into the arm, a crisp and numb feeling is transmitted, not to mention, it is quite comfortable, but the comfortable feeling only takes 3 seconds. After 3 seconds, Li Mo clenched his fist and indeed felt a slight increase in strength. However, his body was relatively weak and did not have much strength now. He wanted to see if it was time to sign in and get some food and drink first. Click on the calendar to check if the check.in task has been completed. The information on the panel still had a countdown of 20 minutes, so Li Mo prepared to take a look at this system mall, but he didn't browse it very carefully. At this moment, there was nothing to do and he wanted to take a look to satisfy his craving. Click on the shopping mall. There are still 4 panels, including food, daily life, weapons and equipment, and medical supplies. Li Mo first clicked on the food panel because he had just clicked on it and saw purified water and bread, but didn't pay attention to anything else. This time, he browsed through it carefully and found that there was only 1 page of information, and this page of information had only 9 boxes. The first 3 boxes were labeled with fixed refresh products, and the last 6 boxes were labeled with random refresh products. When Li Mo saw this information, he became quite curious. The top 3 food products are 1. Pure water, 2. Bread, 3. Instant noodles. The prices are 1 survival point for purified water, 1 survival point for bread, and 3 survival points for instant noodles, and the following 6 products are: chicken leg survival point 5, rice survival point 2, old godmother survival point 3, red wine survival point 10, potato chip survival point 3, and melon seed survival point 3. At the bottom of the page, there is a countdown to refresh the product time, and the countdown time is clearly written as refresh after 23.15.21. After reading the food information, Li Mo clicked on the next life column. The first 3 are still fixed refresh bars, which are 1. Toilet paper survival point 5 points, 2. A set of summer clothing, top and bottom pants, optional size, has a survival point of 20 points, 3. A set of winter clothing, top and bottom pants, optional size, has a survival point of 20 points. The items in the refresh bar below are not like food. There are only 3 items in the life refresh bar, which are towel survival point 3, sanitary napkin survival point 10, and pillow survival point 5 in order. The bottom refresh time is 23.14.02. after reading it. Li Mo clicked on weapons and equipment again, but to his surprise, there was only one weapon and equipment in this column. The information and pictures above tell Li Mo that he knows a baseball bat, which requires 20 survival points. There is no fixed refresh bar, only one baseball bat, and the refresh time below is twice that of the first two. Li Mo carefully checked and found that the refresh time required was November 20th, 47. Li Mo felt very speechless in his heart, which was too perfunctory, right, but on second thought, having a bicycle is better than not having one. The last pharmaceutical product. Li Mo opened it and found 6 products, only one fixed refresh bar and 5 random refresh bars. The first item in the refresh bar is likely to be used by people entering the hospital. Item 1. 500 milliliters of glucose survival point 5 points. Item 2. 500 milliliters of O.type blood, 30 survival points. Item 3. 30 cephalosporin tablets with 15 survival points. Item 4. Emergency syrup 350 milliliters per bottle, survival 15 points. Item 5. 30 ibuprofen tablets with 30 survival points. Item 6. 1 bottle of sleeping pills has 5 survival points. Li Mo saw the refresh time after browsing the items and wrote that it was the same as the refresh time of weapons and equipment. He simply didn't care if he shook his head. Anyway, it's not used now. Close your eyes and have a rest. Li Mo, who was about to take a break, felt like he had forgotten something. He really wanted to play with his phone and suddenly remembered something after putting it down. When I thought about it, I realized that my system mall could be upgraded. I didn't know how to upgrade yet, so I instinctively asked about the system, how to upgrade the system, mall, and package backpacks. The mall requires the host to sign in for a certain number of days before spending survival points to upgrade. As for upgrading the package backpack, it must be upgraded after the mall upgrade, and upgrading only requires the cost of survival points. What features will be added after the upgrade? Please explore on your own after upgrading. Li Mo was blocked by these cold words and couldn't refute them, so he had to leave in frustration. He should watch his countdown sign in. 10 minutes later. Ding! Congratulations to the host for successfully checking in and obtaining 100 survival points. As the host has successfully enabled check.in for the first time, a calendar prompt message has been activated. After hearing the successful check.in, Li Mo was already very happy. Finally, he could have some food to eat. Listening to the calendar prompt, he felt even happier in his heart. Li Mo first clicked on the food section of the shopping mall to purchase a bottle of water and a loaf of bread, and found that the product box after purchase had dimmed, with the words "sold" written on it. Li Mo understood this situation and realized that each product can only be purchased once a day. After clicking on the package, Li Mo found that the purchased goods were all in the package. Without hesitation, he clicked to remove them. Unexpectedly, water and bread appeared in the backpack. Li Mo first took out tons of pure water and started drinking it, and upon hearing the sound, Zhang Xiaofeng also opened his eyes and looked over. Seeing where Li Mo was drinking water, he instinctively went to touch his backpack and found that the water was still there. He curiously asked Li Mo, where did you get the water? After hearing Zhang Xiaofeng's voice, Li Mo thought he was already very quiet, but even the smallest sound in this quiet dormitory would be more obvious. Zhang Xiaofeng saw that Li Mo was not speaking and started drinking heavily there, which made him anxious. This was also too wasteful, so he quickly scolded. Li Mo, don't drink it all at once, save yourself a bit. And the only answer to him was a gap after Li Mo finished drinking a bottle of water. Hey, what are you saying? Save some drinking. No, I'm just too thirsty. I just found out I have a bottle of water and a loaf of bread in my bag. After finishing speaking, he picked up his bag and took out the bread from inside, waving it in his hand for Zhang Xiaofeng to see. Zhang Xiaofeng saw the bread in Li Mo's hand, where he could still lie, so he got out of bed and leaned over, leaning inside while saying to give him some food. Li Mo thought for a moment, and when the goods came in just now, he also gave himself a small half bottle of water. Giving him half would be considered even, so he tore open the bread bag and divided half of the bread for Zhang Xiaofeng. Zhang Xiaofeng, who was given the bread, immediately started eating it in large gulps. Liemo saw it and also started eating it in large gulps. After finishing it, both of them were dry-mouthed. Zhang Xiaofeng took out the water from the bag and took 2 sips. After finishing his bread, Liemo felt a bit dry and needed to drink some water. Then he handed the water bottle he had just finished drinking to Zhang Xiaofeng, meaning to pour me some of your water. After hesitating for a moment, Zhang Xiaofeng took a small sip of Liemo and then covered the bottle cap. Liemo didn't say anything, because after eating bread, he only needed a small sip of water to swallow, so Liemo finished the sip of water and ate the bread, feeling that the particularly hungry feeling in his stomach had disappeared a lot. Chapter 5. Calendar Prompt Messages. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After finishing their meal, the two of them continue to lie down in their respective beds. To save energy, one can only lie down, and Liemo is preparing to purchase other products. After looking at the food, Liemo considered it and decided to buy all the food. The reason why Liemo decided to buy all the food was because he just purchased water and bread and found that the same product can only be purchased once. Anyway, there are still many package compartments in the system. Liemo carefully looked at the package page and found that there are 99 packages on each page. However, it is possible to add a page, which means that 99 packages require 1000 survival points. After calculating, it takes 10 days to sign in, and 99 compartments are also sufficient. Now he doesn't have much survival and limited purchasing power, so he's not in a hurry to upgrade his package. After purchasing all the food products, Liemo thought that after successfully checking in, it seemed like the system had given a prompt message. Liemo clicked on the calendar check.in page and found that the prompted information was filled in on the calendar. Upon seeing these, Liemo immediately became energized and carefully examined them. On May 5th, the 7th day of the Flame Star Disaster Day, outdoor temperature 55 degrees, indoor temperature of 31 degrees, the Flame Star Disaster has 23 days left. Note: on the last day of the Flame Star Disaster Day, the Flame Star will awaken and become a physical entity, actively attacking humans. Please take precautions in advance. The Flame Star awakening lasts for 6 hours. It is recommended that the host light a fire to avoid the Flame Star's active attack. When Liemo saw this, he was startled. This thing would even actively attack humans. Whoever could stop this thing from attacking humans couldn't help but say, "Your sister." After hearing the result, Zhang Xiaofeng next to him took the conversation, who said it's not right. I still want to study as a junior sister. At this point, there's no strength. It's good to have a stutter, so don't think so. Liemo heard what Zhang Xiaofeng said, and the topic he brought up was quite interesting to him, junior students. Do you have any good looks? Who is the school flower? Is it far from our dormitory building? Hahaha, you really want to, the school flower. The only two I've heard of are Shen Muxue from the finance department and Han Qianluo from the business administration department. I haven't heard of anything else. Anyway, there are quite a few beautiful ones. Okay, Liemo was quite interested in hearing Zhang Xiaofeng say these things. After all, no one has a youthful dream, especially someone like him who wants to squander his youth. Unfortunately, the world he travels through is an apocalyptic world, not a peaceful era, so it's better to see the reality clearly. Liemo finished the topic and then looked at the prompt message again. The message showed that as long as Yan Xing woke up and started a fire, he would not be actively attacked, which would be valuable information at that time. He is considering whether to share this information with his classmates. If we infer from this information in reverse, we can infer that these things are currently in a dormant stage, and there are still 23 days of dormancy before these things will awaken. The killing time of 6 hours after awakening is very cruel, not to mention there must be other disasters ahead. After careful consideration, Liemo decided to spread this message at an appropriate time. After all, Liemo was not sure what kind of disaster would follow. If it was an attack-type disaster, having more people could share the burden, but food would definitely be scarce. Thinking of food, Li Mo remembered Zhang Xiaofeng saying that there had been 2 incidents of grabbing food in the dormitory, so he asked Zhang Xiaofeng, who owns all the food in this dormitory building. Do you know how much more food there is? Upon hearing Li Mo's question, Zhang Xiaofeng opened his eyes and turned to chat with him. The food is all with Wang Chang. Wang Chang is the one with military background that I told you about at home. As for how much food there is left, there should be a lot more. After all, there is a small shop in our dormitory building. I heard that there were quite a few goods that were just received the day before the disaster, but there is no way to distribute them to us. After hearing this, Li Mo didn't say anything. After all, it is certain that there is selfishness in the current situation. No one knows when this situation will disappear outside, and if it is his own, he may not necessarily share the food with others. How many dormitories are there in the school, how many people are there, and do they all have a snack bar? There are 5 more buildings like ours, including 3 for boys and 3 for girls. It's estimated that one building can accommodate around 1,500 people, and there are also several unit buildings with 1 elevator and 2 households, all for graduate students. I'm not sure how many people live in one household. It said that there are still couples, and the remaining 2 are teacher apartments. I'm not sure how many people there are. After speaking, I felt a bit dry. I took out half a bottle of water and took a few more sips. After seeing it, Li Mo licked his lips without saying anything. After all, the bottle of water was snatched by someone else themselves. After analyzing the information spoken by Zhang Xiaofeng, I have a rough idea that the information must be shared, not his holy mother. If Flame Star kills everyone here, he may not be able to survive. The information is only a suggestion, but Li Mo still needs to think of more ways out. Li Mo said that it's definitely not because there are still many girls who reveal information. Definitely not. Li Mo has not forgotten that there is also a gold exchange survival point in his check.in task. Li Mo decided to go out and explore, so he decided to buy the only weapon in the weapons store, a baseball bat, to prevent accidents. He also had a weapon that he could defend himself against. After purchasing the weapons, his current survival point is only 39 points left. He bought the toilet paper in his daily life again, and also bought a sanitary napkin. Li Mo felt that it was always right to hoard these things, maybe they would be needed one day. Of course, he definitely didn't use it himself. After packing up, Li Mo was ready to go out, but after thinking about it, he didn't carry his backpack. Firstly, it was too hot now, and anyone had nothing to do with carrying a bag. Secondly, unless there was a lot of food in the bag, it was likely to be snatched soon. So he decided not to carry his backpack out. Anyway, if he left a certain distance, he would return to the package and pick it up later, and Zhang Xiaofeng saw this scene and asked curiously, "What are you doing, going out?" "Well, I'm going out to take a look and see what's going on outside. We have nothing to do now, we can't wait to die, can't we?" After hearing this, Zhang Xiaofeng blushed a bit, but he didn't admit that he was waiting here to die, so he decided to go out with Li Mo. After all, he knew more about the outside world than Li Mo. Li Mo thought about it and agreed, so he decided to go out together. After leaving the door, the hallway was relatively quiet and not as noisy as usual during school. They probably lay down in the dormitory to save energy. When other dormitories heard the sound of someone going out, they saw several dormitory doors open and a few heads sticking out. After seeing it, Li Mo ignored it and walked on his own. However, a few people from the neighboring dormitories that Zhang Xiaofeng knew asked where he was going. Zhang Xiaofeng only said he was going to borrow food and water from someone. When Zhang Xiaofeng said he wanted to borrow food and water, the remaining dormitories with their heads protruding closed with a loud bang. Then Zhang Xiaofeng turned his head awkwardly to look at Li Mo. Li Mo didn't take it seriously. He pressed his chin and gestured for us to continue walking. He had also experienced the ravages of society, and he had already taken selfishness seriously. Sometimes he would be a bit selfish himself, so what right does he have to say about others? Let's go down and see what the situation is with the convenience store. Chapter 6. The Overoccupied Snack Shop. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. Liemo and Zhang Xiaofeng didn't go downstairs quickly, and every time they went down, Liemo would check the situation in the corridor. The reason why Liemo did this is firstly to see if anyone in the dormitory building has started fighting for food and killing people at this stage. If so, to that extent, after understanding these situations, he also needs to be cautious. After all, he has never killed anyone, but hitting someone is still possible. If it threatens him, he can still break his hands and feet. By the time Liemo and Zhang Xiaofeng arrived on the second floor, the crowd had already started to increase, and many students were sitting or lying down in the stairs or hallway, just like beggars on the roadside, but can be a little cleaner than beggars. There are a lot of people, and they can't go down to the second floor anymore. They are all queuing up to ask the people in the snack bar to share some water for them to drink, and Liemo saw this situation. The people in the small shop really gave them water to drink. It seems that the water resources are still quite sufficient. Liemo glanced at Zhang Xiaofeng and asked him what was going on, but Zhang Xiaofeng didn't understand what was going on. He also glanced at Liemo and followed in the queue. Liemo is speechless, and even if you think about it, you can't blame everyone else. They are not familiar with you, so why can you understand what you mean with just one glance? So he walked over to Zhang Xiaofeng and whispered to him to ask these classmates what the situation was now. After nodding to understand Liemo's meaning, Zhang Xiaofeng began to inquire with the students in front of the queue. The previous classmates also answered Zhang Xiaofeng's question. It is said that Wang Chang's group of people are afraid that their classmates will flock to grab supplies. Again, so they have decided to distribute some water to everyone every day, but the amount of water they distribute is not much, and they can only receive 3 cups at a time. The food is only divided into a piece of bread at noon. Liemo nodded when he heard it. In this situation, he could stabilize the emotions of his classmates and ensure that they would not starve or die of thirst. However, he could slowly weaken their strength. When most of them had no strength, it was estimated that this little water and that piece of bread would not be released again. After all, when we master the absolute power, it is who has the strongest fist who has the final say. Liemo frowned, feeling that he didn't believe this situation and these students didn't expect it. He couldn't help but ask, if this continues, what will happen if one day they don't post? The classmate glanced at Liemo and sighed, saying, "There's nothing we can do. The convenience store is being occupied by that group of people, and they still have knives in their hands. The few who fought for the food leader in the morning were all killed, and the classmates were also shocked. So now no one dares to lead the trouble, we can only follow their rules." After listening, Liemo also fell silent. This act of killing chickens as a warning to monkeys and giving a sweet date with a stick can be considered understood by these people. He shook his head, but unfortunately, he had no choice. Unless the weapons store came out with a gun, perhaps he could also grab a wave of supplies. Liemo looked at the people in front, and the queue was not very slow. It should have been his turn in less than 10 minutes. He decided to queue up together, so that when he got closer, he could have a closer look at the situation of these students. In no time, it was lined up with Liemo. Liemo walked up and found a classmate pouring water into a disposable cup, but the water he poured was not mineral water or purified water sold in the small shop, but a bucket of tap water. The student who pours water uses a ladle to fill a disposable cup with water, pouring a little at a time. Liemo watched as the disposable cup was repeatedly used, feeling a bit nauseous in his stomach. Fortunately, he didn't eat much. As Liemo approached, he also noticed that the door of the snack bar was closed, and the place where the water was dispensed was a nearby dormitory with several people inside. Next to the dispenser, there were 2 classmates holding a stool leg, which should have been used as a stick. After 2 glances, he stopped paying attention. When it was his turn, he took the cup and looked at it, which had been used by many people, and he couldn't drink it anymore, so he turned around and handed the cup to the next classmate before leaving. The person who filled the water for the classmates looked at Liemo strangely and said, "Aren't you thirsty? Why don't you drink water?" After hearing the question, Liemo turned his head and showed a smile that was even uglier than crying, saying, Big brother, I'm quite thirsty, but I have a bit of a cleanliness fetish and can't drink it anymore. And when this classmate heard Lee Mo call him Big Brother, he felt very pleased. He liked the way people called him Big Brother to compliment him. When he heard Lee Mo say he had a cleanliness obsession, he took a disposable cup from the room and poured water into it with a ladle, handing it to Lee Mo. Lee Mo didn't react to the operation of this product yet, so he handed the cup to him. Lee Mo took it over and thought to himself, this product won't harm you, will it? I'll even use a pole to deliver water to drink, won't there be any problem with this water? The person pouring water saw that Lee Mo had not been drinking water for a long time, and even urged him to ask why he had not been drinking water. Lee Mo smiled awkwardly, feeling even more convinced that there was something wrong with the water. Lee Mo looked up and drank water from his glass, and even poured it down to signal that he had finished. However, the person who was holding the water asked Lee Mo to open his mouth and take a look. Upon hearing this, Lee Mo cursed the ancestors of this person for 18 generations in his heart. There was no doubt that there was a problem with the water, and he spat it out on this person's face in one gulp. He turned his head and ran away, shouting loudly that the water was poisonous. They wanted to kill everyone. This shout startled the people in the queue who wanted to drink water and those who had not walked far after drinking water. When they heard that the water was toxic and could kill people, they all rushed over. Lee Mo also took the opportunity to run away and heard occasional shouting from behind, saying, "The water is fine," it was the person who just shouted randomly. Don't believe it. Therefore, he picked up the ladle containing water, asked for a ladle of water, and drank it gurgling in front of his classmates, and the classmates around saw that the person who shared the water had already drunk it themselves, so they believed in it and all lined up honestly to get the water to drink. The person who drank water in front of him was so angry that he went directly to another dormitory. As for whether there was any problem with the water, he knew for sure that before leaving, he had handed over the task of distributing water to another classmate, but Lee Mo was convinced that there must be a problem with the water, so he pulled Zhang Xiaofeng back to the dormitory. After returning to the dormitory, Zhang Xiaofeng asked Lee Mo, "Is there really a problem with the water? I have drunk it all, and I haven't felt any discomfort, have I? There must be a problem with the water, but I guess the reaction won't be that fast. I made up a lie that it's toxic. If we want to kill so many people, I don't think they have the courage to do so yet. But I can estimate what the problem is in just a couple of hours." After listening to Lee Mo's explanation, Zhang Xiaofeng went straight to the toilet to pick and vomit. He vomited for a while until he vomited some sour water, but after all, it was water. His body still lacked water, so his digestion speed became very fast, and he could only wait for the result slowly. Lee Mo looked at Zhang Xiaofeng, who had a dead father expression on his face, and comforted him, saying, "Don't be afraid either. I don't think it's a big problem. Do you feel any reaction from your body? The body's reaction is hunger, there's no other reaction. Well, then go to bed first, save some energy, and see what your body will do later." After saying that, he lay down on his own bed. Zhang Xiaofeng noticed that Lee Mo's expression did not seem to be fake. Perhaps the problem was not serious, and he crawled back to his own bed to rest. On Lee Mo's side, he clicked on his system package to prepare to retrieve his backpack. After picking it up for the third time, Lee Mo noticed that the backpack appeared at the end of the bed and brought it over. "I was quite tired from running from the first floor to the 6th floor just now, and coupled with the hot weather, I am quite thirsty at the moment. However, the food and goods purchased in the package are now only available for drinking with that bottle of red wine." Lee Mo simply took it out, and when he got it into his backpack, he clearly felt that the backpack had added weight. What Lee Mo didn't know was that the glucose drops in the medicine could also be consumed directly. Opening his backpack and taking out the red wine, he found that there was no brand on it, a typical 3-No product, but Lee Mo knew that the system produced it, which must be a high-quality product. Chapter 7. Collective Stomach Troubles. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Lee Mo glanced at the mouth of the bottle, and there was no doubt that the wooden stopper could only be opened by looking for a bottle opener, so he searched in the dormitory and casually asked Zhang Xiaofeng, "Is there a bottle opener in the dormitory?" "Bottle opener, why are you looking for that thing? Do you have beer?" Li Mo shook his head and said, "No, there's a small knife on the bottle opener, isn't there? There's also a pointed screw for opening red wine. I'll use it for self-defense." "Oh, you said that kind of multifunctional one. I think I've seen Chao Bin use it before. You looked in his drawer and I remember seeing him take a beer while eating hot pot in the dormitory." After pointing to the bed next door, he indicated that it was Chao Bin's bed cabinet. Li Mo followed Zhang Xiaofeng's finger and began to search on the table and cabinet. When he opened the second drawer, Li Mo flipped it out and confirmed it was a multifunctional bottle opener. Now, Li Mo can drink red wine. He put it directly into his pocket and went to bed, ready to quietly open and drink the red wine for a while, but Zhang Xiaofeng from the opposite bed kept looking at Li Mo, which made him feel very uncomfortable. So he asked, "No, I said Lao Zhang, what do you mean by that look in your eyes? Why have you been staring at me all this time? Li Mo, are you keeping something from me? What's keeping it from you?" "No, okay, let's take a break now." Li Mo spoke comforting words, but in his heart, he said, "There are so many things I'm keeping from you. Can I tell you everything? Who doesn't have a secret yet?" After an hour, Li Mo saw Zhang Xiaofeng get up and go to the bathroom. He quickly took out the red wine from his bag, opened it with the bottle opener in his hand, and took a big sip into the bottle. Well, not to mention, it's quite delicious. It doesn't have a bitter and sour taste like the red wine he drank in his past life, but rather a sweet and delicious taste with a hint of sauce-flavored wine. After taking 2 more sips, Li Mo stuffed the cork back and put it in his backpack. He lay down and continued pretending to sleep. In fact, he also quite wants to sleep, but it's so hot that he can't sleep. He doesn't have air conditioning, so he can only hold a hand-cranked fan and fan some air out. In no time, Zhang Xiaofeng walked out of the toilet and said in a very uncomfortable voice, "His stomach is really uncomfortable." After hearing this, Li Mo's mind immediately remembered that it was laxatives. It seemed that these people were planning to make these people have a stomachache and no longer have the strength to cause trouble, let alone the strength to resist. Li Mo was still thinking about the situation of dividing water and food, and they would take action again in 1 or 2 days. It seems that they are eager to unify the entire dormitory building, but on second thought, why did they unify the entire dormitory building so quickly? Is there not enough food storage in the snack bar, or do they want to occupy all the food in the entire dormitory building for themselves? After thinking for a while, Li Mo couldn't come up with a solution. He decided to let it go and take it one step at a time. If they start tonight, they still have to lock the door to avoid any accidents. In no time, Zhang Xiaofeng went to the restroom several times, which made him feel uncomfortable. He kept cursing Mian and scolding the 18 generations of his grandchildren downstairs. Li Mo looked at this situation, and now it's probably not just Zhang Xiaofeng who is in this state. People didn't eat much and were given laxatives. I guess these people are definitely powerless to resist. After thinking for a moment, Li Mo got out of bed and pushed the cabinet that was not with those 2 people behind the door. After seeing it, Zhang Xiaofeng asked Li Mo what he was doing, and Li Mo had no choice but to express his own thoughts. "I estimate that these people will start catching people in the middle of the night, and everyone's food should be taken away by these people." Li Mo pushed the cabinet while speaking, but suddenly woke up after finishing speaking. "Catching people, yes, arresting people. These people are trying to use living people to find their way, damn it. Explore the way, explore what path?" Obviously, Zhang Xiaofeng did not react at this moment and did not know what Li Mo meant by exploring the way. After stopping his movements, Li Mo thought for a moment and touched his chin, saying, "It should be because after 2 fights, they killed a few more students, and their evil intentions were amplified. Anyway, everyone has been killed, is there anything else they dare not do?" Coupled with the situation outside, it's hard to imagine that they still dare not do anything now. Speaking of which, Li Mo patted his thigh and looked at Zhang Xiaofeng, asking, "How far is the girls' dormitory building from this building?" Just as Zhang Xiaofeng was about to answer, his stomach began to ache. He waved his hand and turned his head before entering the bathroom again. Li Mo shook his head helplessly and could only move the cabinet behind the door to reinforce the defense and prevent these people from breaking in. After all, my current body is still a weak chicken. Even with a baseball bat for self-defense, I can't withstand the crowds. I can only push the door against it before making any plans, so after measuring the distance, he first laid the cabinet flat and pushed it behind the door to block it. In this way, he can stack the 4 cabinets in the dormitory, which will be heavier. If the people outside cannot push them, they may leave. After all, missing 1 or 2 people should not affect their plans too much. After about 10 minutes, Li Mo had just stacked the second cabinet when he heard Zhang Xiaofeng's weak voice outside the bathroom door. Li Mo, help me, give me the water in my bag. I'm a bit dehydrated. Li Mo stopped his hand and picked up the bag from Zhang Xiaofeng's bed. He walked to the bathroom door and threw it to Zhang Xiaofeng. Zhang Xiaofeng quickly said thank you, picked up the water in the bag, twisted it open, and started drinking tons of it. Li Mo saw that Zhang Xiaofeng was drinking quite vigorously, and after working hard for a while, he was sweating profusely. He wiped off the sweat on his head and went to his bedside to open his backpack, taking out the bottle of red wine and drinking it for 2 sips. Because there was a door between the bathroom and the dormitory, Li Mo couldn't help but deliberately conceal it, and Zhang Xiaofeng couldn't see the situation inside the dormitory. After drinking, there was less than half a bottle left. So he sealed the remaining half and put it in his backpack, and now my body also feels a dizzying sensation. After all, I am drinking alcohol, and the aftertaste of red wine should be quite strong. Li Mo took advantage of his sobriety and used the strength of his alcohol to stack the remaining 2 cabinets. When stacking the last cabinet, it was still difficult for him to complete it alone, so he called the weak Zhang Xiaofeng over to help with it. After finishing everything, neither of them had much strength left and neither spoke. They climbed onto their own bed with a tacit understanding. The reason why Zhang Xiaofeng still has some strength is thanks to Li Mo's reminder after he returned, and he also ran to the bathroom and vomited himself, so he hasn't reached the point where he can't walk, but only a little strength has been used to move the cabinet. At this moment, he has no strength at all. Who can say for sure whether they will be greeted with hope of life or sorrow of death next? Chapter 8. Capturing People. You are listening at novelfull.audio. At 9:30 p.m., if it's the usual time, students either have to study late and just finished school, prepare to go back to the dormitory to wash up, or have fun in the dormitory before resting. But now, dong dong dong, dong dong dong, ah. What are you doing? Ah. Screams and door smashes came one after another. Many students were scared and tightly guarded their door, fearing that someone might come in and beat them up. Some timid people hold their heads in the dormitory, crying and shouting for their mothers. Some who wanted to resist were weakened by laxatives, and after being beaten a few times, they became honest. And some people who did not drink the water distributed downstairs also made fierce resistance, resulting in being beaten and bleeding, and the water and food in the dormitory were looted. Li Mo woke up when the first sound of smashing the door sounded here. After getting out of bed, he ran to the window to listen to the sound. The sound he heard was probably from the 2nd floor and 3rd floor. He didn't know whether these people would come to their 6th floor to clean up. They were also extremely panicked and anxious, feeling in danger. He lifted the bathroom mop behind the door and heard the screams downstairs, feeling still uneasy. He then dismantled 2 of the chairs in the dormitory and blocked them all behind the door, nervously sitting not far from the door waiting. Waiting is a long and heart-wrenching process. Li Mo is very worried, and Zhang Xiaofeng next to him is no exception. In the latter half of the night, the sound gradually quieted down. Li Mo listened to it by the window and found that the sound seemed to be coming from the 4th floor. It seems that they have caught a bit too many people, so I'm afraid I won't be able to take care of them. I'll use these people first, and then catch them when they're used up. Anyway, I can't escape. Li Mo walked back from the balcony helplessly and said, it seems they've caught enough people tonight, and they'll probably start exploring the way tomorrow morning. As he spoke, Li Mo remembered the question he asked Zhang Xiaofeng before going to bed and asked again, "Old Zhang, how far is it from our dormitory building to the girls' dormitory building?" After hearing this, Zhang Xiaofeng thought for a moment and said, "After passing through another male dormitory building, there are 3 female dormitory buildings behind." "Li Mo, what do you mean? Do you mean they want to go to the female dormitory building? Even if they go there, they still want to go and save people?" Li Mo nodded without refuting his point of view and said, "You know the current situation. The order of the peaceful era is collapsing, and those things outside cannot move. Although they are quite large, the distance between them is also very large. If we slowly use living people to explore the way, we can still find a way out. Do you think that since they have even killed people, there is nothing strange about having a few female classmates? After all, they are not short of food now, and the only ones who can relieve stress are the girls in school, right? For them, if it is the end of the world now, they will all die anyway. Why not go crazy before death? If it were you, what would you do?" After hearing these words spoken by Li Mo, Zhang Xiaofeng fell silent and wondered if he would have such thoughts like them. Li Mo looked at Zhang Xiaofeng, a student who had just entered university, and felt it was necessary to remind him of his childish face. He sighed and said, "Old Zhang, don't underestimate the greed and desire of human nature, and don't underestimate the evil of human nature. Especially in such a situation without legal constraints, the evil thoughts of human nature will be infinitely magnified. I can also tell you for sure that if it were me, I might have fallen into trouble. But now, I still have a trace of the bottom line, and I don't think there is anything wrong with them because I don't have the qualifications to judge them. It's just that I don't like their way, and I don't want to be in the same boat with them. It's just dirty." After listening to Li Mo's words, Zhang Xiaofeng also pondered there, but after thinking for a while, he couldn't come up with a reason. He didn't think people were that bad, did he? Li Mo also didn't believe that these people were planning to take people to explore the way. He shook his head and said, "Li Mo, I think they should be trying to escape. Capturing those people doesn't necessarily mean they're trying to explore the way, but it could also be because we took their food and retaliated against us. It shouldn't be as bad as you think." Li Mo looked at the naive college student and patted his shoulder, saying, "Okay, I also hope my guess is false, and what you said is even more true." Then he stood up and listened behind the door, only to find that there was less noise. He turned around and said, "All right, they won't come tonight. Let's go back to their own bed and rest. We'll talk about anything tomorrow." After that, he ignored Zhang Xiaofeng and lay down on his own bed. After nodding, Zhang Xiaofeng returned to his own bed. Now it's pitch black. There's no light in the room and you can't see anything, but occasionally a few beams of light come from outside, making the night no longer seem so dark, but it's so cold. Lying in bed, Li Mo thought for a moment. If he could go out one day, he would leave alone, open the system. Li Mo clicked on the system mall and looked at the upgrade requirements. He remembered that the upgrade requirements were stated by the system to require a certain number of days of check.in. He didn't specify the specific number of days, so he had to check it himself. Now, take advantage of the time to take a look. Level 2 requirement for system mall upgrade. 1. Require the host to sign in for a total of 5 days. 2. 500 survival points are required. According to the upgrade requirements, it is required to sign in for a total of 5 days, but the survival point is 500 points. Even if you sign in for 5 days, it is not enough. Thinking about it again, there are still 2 tasks left, and the third task is not worth considering. It is certain that you will not be able to kill it before changing the physical entity. After changing the physical entity, consider it again. The rest needs to be exchanged for gold. However, going out today was not conducive and you did not find gold. It's still possible to wait until the group of people leaves tomorrow or the day after tomorrow before going out. So Li Mo fell asleep, one night without a word. At 6 o'clock the next morning, Li Mo woke up from the heat, but he didn't get up either. He still closed his eyes to stay alert. but it wasn't long before he heard mournful screams. No need to think, it must be those people who have started taking action. Zhang Xiaofeng, who was across from the bed, was also startled by the screams and quickly asked, "What sound? Did you hear, Liamo? It seems like someone is screaming." Liamo opened his eyes and glanced at Zhang Xiaofeng, then closed his eyes and said, "There's not much noise. Let's continue with the cat for a while. We can't get out now either. Maybe we can go out when they're done." "No, Liamo, why are you still sleeping? Are they really exploring the way with that person right now? What's the relationship between yes and no? Is it difficult for you to rescue those people or save some energy? If you're lucky, they will go to the next dormitory building first, and we can also go out and find some food." After finishing speaking, I even touched my stomach and felt a bit hungry. Chapter 9. Connection to Dormitory Building 3. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Liamo touched his stomach and wanted to take out the chicken legs from the package to eat, but it was difficult to explain to Zhang Xiaofeng. He thought to himself, "It's really troublesome, it's better to be alone. Let's find a way to get rid of this person later." After all, the secret of the system must not be known to the second person. There are about 195 people headed by Wang Chang downstairs, and their goal was also well guessed by Liamo, but their first thing was to connect to the third dormitory building, because there was Wang Chang's younger brother named Wang Hai over there. And this Wang Hai also recruited a group of people in the third dormitory building, but it's not like Wang Chang in the second dormitory building who only has them, where the third dormitory building is a bit complicated. The situation in Building 3 is that the captain of a basketball team is named Wu Hao, and he has gathered a group of people. There is also a man with glasses from the finance department named Xian Xiao, who is usually very wealthy and naturally follows a group of lackeys around him. Finally, Wang Hai also recruited some people, but not as many as Wu Hao and Xian Xiao, so the food and water in the snack bar in Dormitory Building 3 were divided among their three forces, and Wang Hai received the least amount, which also made him dissatisfied. He took the opportunity to find ways to contact his brother Wang Chang, who was dominating in Dormitory Building 2. After hearing this news, Wang Chang discussed with the people under his command. One of them, Zhou Zifeng, proposed the method of using people to explore the way and explore a passage to the third dormitory building, which could help Wang Haiba in the third building occupy the food and water of the other two sides, and his method is to have someone tie a rope, put dye on their shoes, and walk step by step until they reach the opposite dormitory building. The place where the person exploring the way has stepped on will definitely leave traces, so that those behind can pass smoothly. After the first person to explore the way let out a scream, Zhou Zifeng felt that the sound might intensify the fear of those behind him, so he didn't dare to leave. Therefore, when he reached the second person, he had his mouth blocked, so, after walking a distance, Zhou Zifeng asked people to come forward and make some marks, so that they wouldn't make mistakes when passing by themselves. The distance between dormitory buildings 2 and 3 is not far, about 100 meters, but in this short 100 meters, no less than 100 people died, because this route is not a straight line, and the routes are all 7 or 8 turns, when Zhou Zifeng arranged for the last person to explore the way to walk to the third dormitory building. The road leading to the third dormitory was considered open. At the first moment after the road was clear, Zhou Zifeng quickly notified Wang Chang, and Wang Chang led about 100 people to dormitory building 3. Speaking of Li Mo's side, when Liamo woke up, it was already past 9 o'clock. After hearing screams around 6 o'clock, he didn't hear those sounds anymore and didn't know what was going on downstairs. Behind the balcony of his dormitory is Building 1, and he cannot see the situation of Building 3. Only the balcony of the opposite dormitory can see what is happening downstairs, and when Zhang Xiaofeng saw Liamo wake up, he followed suit and his stomach made a gurgling sound. Upon hearing this, Liamo was also very hungry. After thinking for a moment, he took his backpack and took out the potato chips from the system package. After taking out the potato chips, they also appeared accurately in the backpack. Liamo took the opportunity to take them out and found that the package of potato chips was still the big one. but only 125 grams. Zhang Xiaofeng saw Li Mo take out potato chips and immediately reached out to ask for them, his expression resembling that of a Labrador dog he had raised in the original world. Li Mo glanced at Zhang Xiaofeng in anger, tore open the packaging bag, and poured a little into Zhang Xiaofeng's hand, and Zhang Xiaofeng kept muttering, "Pour a little more, pour a little more." Li Mo poured his hands and almost picked them up. He didn't plan to give the rest of the goods to him. If it weren't for the water he had given himself, Li Mo wouldn't have wanted to share it with him at all. After Zhang Xiaofeng waited for Li Mo to finish pouring for him, he immediately took a big bite with his mouth. As for the potato chips, he finished them in just a few bites. After finishing, he even wanted to ask Li Mo for them and reached out his hand. After seeing it, Li Mo angrily said, "There isn't much left. I've eaten enough for you, and I haven't eaten anything myself for a long time." Upon hearing this, Zhang Xiaofeng withdrew his hand and wiped his mouth, looking at Li Mo's backpack on the bed. He was about to go over and take a look when Li Mo blocked him. Li Mo became a bit angry when he saw Zhang Xiaofeng's actions and stood in front of his backpack, saying to him, "Old Zhang, what I'm giving you is for the sake of yesterday's half-bottle of water romance. If you extend your hand again, it would be too much." Zhang Xiaofeng saw that Li Mo was angry, so he withdrew his hand. He was actually curious about how there was still something in Li Mo's bag. He clearly remembered that when this bag hit his head yesterday, there should be nothing inside. He even picked it up and threw it to Li Mo. At that time, his hand felt empty inside, which was really strange, so he apologized and climbed onto his own bed. After seeing Zhang Xiaofeng climb onto his bed, Li Mo thought to himself, "This guy has already started to go a bit too far. He has started to reach out, and it's still the kind without his consent. This makes him unable to bear it anymore. He really doesn't like this feeling. No, he needs to find a way to get rid of this person as soon as possible." After thinking for a while, Li Mo decided not to block the door anymore. Later, he went out to find an empty dormitory and started a cat. He also wanted his body to have a full meal. Otherwise, when would his body recover? After making the decision, Li Mo quickly finished the potato chips in his hand, threw away the bag casually, and then began preparing to move the cabinet that was blocking the door. After hearing the commotion, Zhang Xiaofeng looked at Li Mo and asked, "Li Mo, what are you doing? Why are you starting to move the cabinet again? Aren't you blocking the door? What if those people come up again to catch people?" After hearing Zhang Xiaofeng's inquiry, Li Mo first looked at him and then said, "They should have caught a lot of people last night. I estimate they have already caught enough people, and I guess the road to Dormitory Building 3 has been dug out. Maybe those people have all gone to Building 3 now. I'm going to go out and see the situation. Why don't you come down and help me? Let's move the cabinet quickly together." In my heart, I thought to myself, I can't let this guy eat my food for free. It's not a loss to ask this guy to help me with some physical work. And when Zhang Xiaofeng heard Li Mo ask him to help him with his work, he instinctively glanced at Li Mo's bag and said, "Do you still have anything to eat? Help you move the cabinet and give me some more to eat." Li Mo also saw Zhang Xiaofeng's gaze glancing at his backpack and didn't even scratch it. He said, "It's really gone. That bag of potato chips is the last pack of snacks. If you're willing to help, you can help. If you're not willing, you can do it yourself." Zhang Xiaofeng saw that Li Mo was a bit angry and stopped asking him if there was any food left in his bag. He also got out of bed with some hesitation and helped Li Mo move the cabinet that was blocking the door. Chapter 10. Searching for Gold. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After Li Mo and Zhang Xiaofeng moved the cabinets, Li Mo carefully opened the door, poked his head out, and looked around, only to find that the group of people did not come up to the 6th floor yesterday. While Li Mo was observing, he suddenly heard shouting coming from behind, "Damn it, Li Mo, you still have red wine. No wonder you asked me for a bottle opener yesterday. I thought you were quite strange at the time. Why did you need a bottle opener? Upon hearing this, Liemo suddenly withdrew his head and turned his head to see Zhang Xiaofeng searching inside with his own bag. Liemo was very angry in his heart, but he was also grateful that he didn't take out all the other food at once, otherwise there would definitely be none left. With a loud bang, Liemo angrily closed the door, walked forward, grabbed his backpack, and said to Zhang Xiaofeng, "I said, Lao Zhang, you can handle it." After the bag in Zhang Xiaofeng's hand was taken away, he originally wanted to say a few words, but he looked at Liemo, who was angry in front of him, and also felt a little scared. He nodded and bowed to compensate Liemo. After all, there is only half a bottle of red wine in the bag and there is not much to eat. If there is some food, he may have a fight with Liemo. Sorry, give me a small sip, just a small sip. Yesterday, you drank half a bottle of water from me. After hearing this, Liemo became even angrier. Who knew that when he woke up yesterday, he was indeed lacking in water, and he did drink half of his bottle of water. He then took the grace with him. Liemo shook his head and sighed, saying, "Okay, I'll give you half of it. Even if we repay the love we had for drinking your half bottle of water yesterday, we won't owe anyone from now on. Don't bother, I didn't mean that. I'll just take a sip, just a sip," he said while gesturing with his hand, and Liemo also decided in his heart that he couldn't be with this guy anymore. This guy no longer valued him. If there was a lot of food in his bag, he might end up losing face. His current body is unbeatable. Take out the bottle opener, open the red wine, and signal Zhang Xiaofeng to bring his cup with his eyes. Zhang Xiaofeng quickly turned around, took his own cup, and immediately handed it to Liemo. This set of actions was called a flowing stream. Liemo glanced at him in anger, then poured a full cup into the cup before stopping. This cup was just an ordinary drinking cup, with a small capacity of only 200 milliliters. Looking at the red wine that was almost bottoming out in the bottle, he felt such a heartache for being thrown away. At this moment, he suddenly thought about it. After all, this thing is wine, and drinking too much now also affects his actions. Instead, it's better to drink all of it. When he drinks it faintly, he can shake it off himself, so I saw Zhang Xiaofeng gulping down a glass and asking, "Is it good? I won't pour you any more." After finishing his drink, Zhang Xiaofeng praised Liemo's red wine for being really delicious. He wanted to drink an extra 2 glasses, but felt embarrassed. But who would have thought that Liemo would continue to refill his glass? He was overjoyed and said, Li Gu has called for it." Liemo sneered and thought to himself, "If it's good, you should drink more. I know this thing and I'm quite strong. After you fall asleep, I'll pay my respects to you." Liemo gave all the remaining red wine to Zhang Xiaofeng to drink, and he finished drinking all the goods, calling them delicious. Liemo was not in a hurry either, so he sat back on his chair to rest, waiting for Zhang Xiaofeng's alcohol to rise. As soon as the alcohol strength rose, this guy would definitely sleep in bed, and he could go out and do his own thing, while also getting himself some food. After waiting for half an hour, Zhang Xiaofeng had been bragging across from him, boasting about how powerful he was in his village. Liemo was also quietly listening to this guy's boasting across from him. The result was that the goods were blowing and blowing until they fell asleep on their own bed. Well, Liemo just feels really tired. It's outrageous to hear this guy brag. He can climb trees at the age of 3, farther than the dolls in their village at the age of 5, and at the age of 7, he secretly watched the widow next door, Aunt Lu, take a shower. He even said that Aunt Lu's chest muscles were even bigger than his father's, which almost made Liemo laugh. On the other hand, Liemo even gestured and gestured. As soon as he saw this product, he didn't know how to drink. After drinking it, he drifted away, and his own secrets were explained. Liemo pretended to have heard a joke and put on his backpack. He glanced at Zhang Xiaofeng, who was tall with his buttocks curled up on the bed, shook his head, and quietly stole half of the bottle of water from Zhang Xiaofeng's bag. Then he squeezed his hands and walked out the door. He drank half of his own bottle of red wine, and taking half of his bottle of water was not a loss. After leaving the dormitory, Li Mo walked lightly against the wall without attracting the attention of other dormitories. He also observed the situation on the 6th floor and did not find any open dormitory doors. It is estimated that these people also blocked the doors. When he arrived at the 5th floor, Li Mo noticed through a glimmer of light that a dormitory door was open. Without hesitation, Li Mo walked over, but as he approached the door, he stopped and extended his head to look inside the open dormitory door. At first glance, it looks really messy inside. There are scattered red dots on the ground, even on the wall. It seems that there has been intense fighting here, but I don't know if anyone has died. After entering the dormitory with door number 512, Li Mo first locked the dormitory door and then went to the bathroom to take a look, only to find that there was indeed no one in the dormitory, and outside the window of this dormitory is the number 3 male dormitory building. Li Mo stood on the balcony and looked out the window, wanting to see where these people had gone. As a result, there were many footprints left between the burning stars. Li Mo withdrew his gaze and returned to the dormitory. He opened the system backpack and first took out the chicken legs from the backpack. At the moment the chicken legs were taken out, Li Mo's stomach began to growl and without hesitation, he ate them in large gulps. When eating, don't forget to take out the water bottle after drinking, and then take out half of the water stolen from Zhang Xiaofeng and pour it into your own bottle. A mouthful of chicken legs, a mouthful of water, delicious. After finishing the chicken legs, Li Mo wiped off the oil stains on his mouth and began to search for food and water in this dormitory. He was not looking for food and water, but he knew that there was definitely no food and water in this dormitory, so his goal is gold. If he can find it, he can complete the daily check that in task 2 and gain an additional 100 survival points. After searching for half a day, Li Mo didn't even come up with something with gold on it. He had given up on his idea, but when he found the pillow, a necklace fell out and fell to the ground. Li Mo picked it up and glanced at it. It was indeed a gold necklace, but it was just a little bit of gold on the front. Li Mo weighed it and found that it was less than 5 grams. He glanced at the calendar on the table and cabinet again and found a red circle on April 29th, which read Tong Tong's birthday. Oh, no need to think it was a birthday gift from this classmate. Li Mo even took a look at the name of this classmate and upon seeing it, he surprisingly shared the same surname as him, called Li Tinu. Li Mo said that this person is quite a second-year middle school student. Iron Bull, Iron Bull. Li Mo originally thought that this person should be tall and powerful. After seeing the photo on the cabinet, I became speechless. This photo should be taken at the time of enrollment. The two people in the photo should be him and his mother. Looking at Li Tinu in the photo, no matter how you look at it, you can't see any situation where he can get in touch with Tinu.